Yo, welcome back. Welcome back to the Four Wide Fantasy Podcast. Thank you so much for stopping in yet again and joining us for our fantasy football talk as we talk about week one. If you're one of our subscribers, thank you for the support. If you're new, you are in for a treat. Your hosts, Matt, Shed, Olu, and Will break down week one action and then talk about fantasy implications and week two going forward. So before we do anything else, I'd love to give you a rundown of what we're going to do today. First, we're going to talk about our recap for how we did in week one. Then we're going to go to some injury roundup and fantasy implications there. We're also going to talk about our top performers from week one. Then we're going to give you a new segment, Don't Overreact, because it's so easy to overreact from things that happen in week one and totally derail your whole fantasy season. Listen to us. We got some great advice for you, and don't overreact. Then we're going to talk about waiver wire ads, people that you want to make sure you put your claim in right away. Don't miss out on these guys because they will help your fantasy team going forward. And then we're going to look going into week two, matchups to exploit, matchups to avoid. And then we have another new segment for you, something really fun that I'm looking forward to. We're going to have our own single game mock draft where will hear myself, Shed, Olu, and Will draft our own teams based off of one game. We're going to go 2 rounds, and then you can come back and hold us accountable for the people that we picked up, and we're going to keep a running score throughout the season. We're going to see who's the winner at the end of the season, who is the best of the 4 of us, and who knows, maybe we'll have an award, a prize for the winner, or consequences for the loser. Anyways, guys, why don't we talk about how we did in week one? Shed, go for it, man.
Man, this past week was amazing. I was 3-0 in all my 3 leagues. 2 of my leagues, I had the Dallas defense. And actually, in one of them, I had the Dallas D and I had Tyreek. That was actually the league where I beat Matt. Me and him were playing week one.
Boo.
I had Tyreek, Dallas D, and I was obviously number 1 scorer in that league. Matt was actually second leading scorer, but I was the highest scorer in that league. So Matt got the L, thanks to me.
You just have to say that again. Boom. No, keep going.
And I would say finally, I'm in 3 leagues. 2 of the leagues I have the Dallas D. The final league I have the Jets D. So my defenses are on lock this season.
Defenses. Olu, go for it, man. How'd you do?
I did great. I had an awesome weekend. I was actually the top scorer on my team. Okay, I have Deshaun Watson, I have McCaffrey, I have Amari St. Brown, Robinson, and the Dallas Cowboy defense. And you know, if you have the Dallas Cowboy defense, most likely you won your league.
Yeah.
So, what about your dynasty team, Olu? The league the team that you're in the same league as all of us.
Yeah.
Speak the truth, though. Speak the truth.
Will, next.
I'll save you.
You will be hearing more about Olu's team in our dynasty league.
We're gonna tell that story.
I'll save you.
We will say that.
I had an uneven week one, so I went 1-1 in my 2 leagues. The league I won, I was happy. Super flex, so I had Trevor Lawrence and Anthony Richardson. That was solid performances right there. And then receivers, I had CeeDee Lamb. He kind of carried my team. I'll talk about my other receiver in a minute. And I had Pollard. So they did enough. They did enough to get me the win. The league I lost in, I had the privilege of losing to Shed in this league that we're in together. And let's just say
1 L for Matt, 1 L for Will.
Terrible luck. So, starting Daniel Jones in that 40-0 massacre. Not so good. Drake London got me a nice goose egg, and then I had Tyler Lockett with his concussion scare, got me a whopping 4 points. So not a lot to be happy about in that second league.
I'm in that space where my favorite pro football team lost. So the reality is I don't really care about anything else that happened. But no, my redraft leagues, I went 1 for 1. I did lose to Shed. That was tragic. I don't really have too much to say about that one. I was the second highest scorer in that league. And then in my dynasty leagues, I will rant just for a second on that one. My team did very well, and the only problem was I went into Monday night up 20 points with Aaron Rodgers to play while my opponent had James Cook and the Buffalo kicker. And so that did not work out well for me, and I ended up losing by 8, which is crazy because I was the 3rd highest scorer in that league with Rodgers in my lineup, along with T. Higgins and Graham Gano, my kicker. All 3 of those guys got me 0. And I was still the 3rd highest scorer, and I lost. That's the definition of bad luck. But let me tell you what bad fortune is. I'm a Giants fan. They lost 40-0. That was terrible. It was the most deflating thing I've ever experienced in my life. So, anyways, I'll just get that out of the way so I don't need to say anything else along that line. But the New York Football Giants utterly disrespected their fan base. So hopefully we don't experience that again. But
well, I hate
hey, public therapy session. Just let it all out right now.
So.
My wife lets me rant. She knows that I have to get it out the way. But obviously, with football does come injuries.
Yeah,
Shed, give us the injury roundup.
Olu, go ahead.
Olu, go for it.
No, it's all good. Okay, so we have our first injury is Jacoby Myers. He has a concussion, which is he's week to week. Those who benefit from that are Jimmy Garoppolo, Devontae Adams, and Hunter Henry.
I love how you said Jimmy Garoppolo.
I know. I was like, he doesn't quite benefit from that. I was thinking about that. Anyway, but my note says Jimmy Garoppolo, but he doesn't quite benefit from him getting hurt. Anyway, moving on. We also have Deontay Johnson of the Steelers, the number 1 receiver of the Steelers. He's dealing with hamstring issues. And the benefactors of that is Judge Pickens. Judge Pickens benefits from that a lot because he moves into the number 1 receiver role. And then you have Allen
receiver in the league.
He is. Yes, Olu think he's first ballot Hall of Famer, right, Olu?
I'll take him over Odell, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, okay. That's fair.
So we have Allen Robinson, who also benefits. Then we have J.K. Dobbins, who's dealing with an Achilles tear, which puts him out for the whole year. Terrible. So the people that benefit from that are Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Melvin Gordon, who's been said to be coming up from practice squad this week.
We're digging deep for this.
Yeah, go ahead and dig deep down there for Melvin Gordon.
Hey, you might shock the world. I'm all about shocking the world, okay? All right. And lastly, the Aaron Rodgers, that left us all in dismay. Okay.
Tragic.
Aaron Rodgers also dealing with an Achilles tear. Someone who benefits from that is Zach Willis. So you go choose him at your own accord, okay?
Zach Willis, my new favorite quarterback.
Zach Wilson.
Someone else that might get affected from this is Wilson, Garrett Wilson. That might affect how many touches he gets. Also will affect the running back. That might increase their touches. So all this benefactor who want to put in mind when you look into the waiver of who you're going to take. But we'll talk more about that.
So I'm pretty sure in our Dynasty League, Garrett Wilson, I've got trade offers from almost everybody, I feel like, in our Dynasty League prior to the season, right, when they got Aaron Rodgers. Now Garrett Wilson, yeah, he'll be good, but he won't be that elite status.
I told you to sell him a while ago.
Yeah, but if I could speak to that for a second, let's not forget he got Offensive Rookie of the Year without Aaron Rodgers. He got Offensive Rookie of the Year with Mike White, Joe Flacco, and was it Zach Wilson? So
yes,
what can he do without Rodgers? He can still get 1,100 yards and 4 or 5 touchdowns. I mean, the guy is still talented. I mean, he still scored a touchdown yesterday. That catch was amazing.
He intercepted a Zach Wilson interception. That's what that was. That throw was a Zach Wilson interception that he snapped
himself.
Yes, that's a good one. No, he's a baller for sure. He's a baller. No
gosh, yes.
Receivers there are quarterback independent. They're not quite dependent on quarterbacks in a sense.
Correct.
I feel for J.K. Dobbins. Didn't he tear his Achilles before? Or was it an ACL injury?
ACL 3 years ago.
Yeah, and the thing that stinks the most about it is because this was a contract year for J.K. Dobbins.
Right.
So he's not on contract next year, meaning whoever signs him is basically going to sign him to a vet minimum deal because he's going to be rehabbing. He's going to be rehabbing.
Yes.
And then the reality is he probably won't get the opportunity. I would hate if this is the young man's end of his career, because he's going to get pushed down a depth chart. And then how much opportunity does he really have? Obviously it's tragic for what happened to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, tearing an Achilles, season ender, hopefully not a career ender. But I mean, if it is, you can't blame the guy. But I mean, he's had a long career, whereas J.K. Dobbins, but regardless, nobody wants to see their career end due to injury.
Matt,
you want to go out.
I have a question for you, Matt, real quick before we move on. Does that mean Sony Michel has a more productive career than J.K. Dobbins?
Oh no! Move on. Take us ahead, Matt. Please save us.
Oh my gosh!
He has a more productive career than J.K. Dobbins. That's a fact.
That's the only mention Sony Michel will ever get on this podcast.
Right. So issue one, the first episode we mentioned Brandon Weed, and this one is Sony Michel. Let's go to top performers. We will not be talking about
bro. Let me see what logo is on your outfit. What logo is on it?
I went to the illustrious University of Georgia, 2-time national champs. Thank you. He did go there. Sony did. Sony did go to University of Georgia. But we're going to move on now. We're going to talk about our top performers from week 1. Shed, go for it. Who's your top performer from week 1?
It's clear. I talked about them earlier. It's going to be the Dallas Cowboys defense. This defense was disruptive. It wreaked havoc. They bullied. They punked. They stole the Giants' lunch money.
You don't need to do this.
They punched them in the mouth. The Giants couldn't do anything about it. It's kind of like that kid. It's kind of like the kid on the playground that pushes around and punks the other kids, right? That's what Dallas defense did against the Giants. The Giants just sat there. They took it. Dallas was mean-mugging them, coming in their house, taking what they want, how they want it, whenever they want it.
Can I mute him? Can I mute him?
And all of Matt's healing that was done is now undone. We've reopened every room.
Yes.
The worst thing about it is Shed is looking at his camera, but it looks like he's looking at me from what I'm seeing.
He's looking at you. He's looking at you.
I'm looking at you, Matt. I'm looking at you. And so then from a fantasy perspective, Dallas gave you anywhere between 37 and 44 points, and they were the top 3 fantasy player this past week.
Golly.
And Dallas D, they had 2 interceptions, 7 sacks, 12 QB hits, a defensive touchdown, a special teams touchdown, 3 forced fumble, a fumble recovery, and gave up 0 points. Daniel Jones was pressured 55% of a drop back, the highest of his career. That's just a long day for anybody pressure that much. The Cowboys defense were my top performer from week 1.
I got to quickly give Olu credit because he called it. And what did he say? They added the great one in the offseason, Stephon Gilmore. Hey, it looks like it's all coming together for that team. It's no question.
We don't have to talk this long about how badly the Giants lost, you guys.
I mean, it was
we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. We've done it justice.
Go for it, Olu. Who's your top performer from week 1?
All right, so my top performer this week is Aiden Hurst. Okay, he was the number 1 tight end this week. Okay. Aiden Hurst was drafted in the first round in 2018 by the Baltimore Ravens, and he's not quite hit the pinnacle of what they wanted him to be. So he bounced around. He went to Atlanta Falcons, he went to the Bengals, and now he's a Carolina Panther. So, but it looks like this might actually be a good fit for him because he really did good. He had what did he have? He had let's see, he had 7. What's my notes? All right, never mind. He had a good game. Okay, he had a touchdown. He had about 40 yards on 5 targets. So he really had a good game, and he's not had that kind of game in a while. So he's someone to really look out for. It's finally, catching his stride finally in his 4th team. So he was a surprise performer.
What's so interesting about Hayden Hurst is that he was drafted in the first round of 2018, and then in that same draft, the Ravens drafted Mark Andrews.
Yep.
And so, and it's wild that Mark Andrews has been he's been a top 5 fantasy quarterback, tight end for years. And hopefully Hayden Hurst takes off. I did read reports beforehand
I think this is it because he's kind of like a security blanket for Bryce Young right now. So that's a good role for him to fill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Will, who's your top performer?
All right. My week 1 top performer, no question. It is Tua Tagovailoa. 28 of 45 for 466 yards. This man approached 500 yards.
500 yards,
and
wow.
3 touchdowns. About half of those yards went to Tyreek. We thought that Mahomes and Tyreek had this magical connection, but what we've seen over the last season plus is that the Tua to Tyreek connection is unstoppable. Tyreek had moments where there was no one within 10 yards of him. The timing on the throws was beautiful. If Tua stays healthy, please stay healthy, Tua. He is in for a massive, potentially record-breaking season the way this offense is humming.
Potentially MVP. If he stays healthy, he's going to be in running for the MVP this year.
He's in that conversation if he puts up stats like this.
So I just want to ask you, what's that?
The MVP. Are we talking about Tua or are we talking about Tyreek? Who's going to get the MVP?
Tua. They're not giving it to a receiver. We already know. It's a
they just did though. But I want to put out a question, and let's take a vote here. What do you guys think? Tyreek Hill said at the beginning of the season he wants to hit 2,000 yards. Do you think Tyreek Hill will get to 2,000 yards by the end of the NFL football season? What do you guys say?
If Tua's healthy, Tyreek's healthy, absolutely.
Well, it just in general, like if Tua's healthy or not, because last year Tua missed time, and Tyreek Hill still had 1,500 yards.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Yes or no?
I think
I would say
no.
yes.
I'm going to say no because they'll spread the ball around.
Let's do it.
Olu says yes. Will says no. Shed, what do you think?
So I think no, because 2,000 yards, that's a lot. That's 117 yards per game, every single game. Now, there isn't that extra 17th game that they have. So that's going to help them as well, too. But you have to be consistent all throughout the season. Now, it helps that he had 215 yards to start out with. So he's pacing good, right? But teams are going to back up from Tyreek. He's going to have a couple of low games. He can't keep this up game in and game out. So I would say no.
Yeah, I want him to. I think the reality is I don't think he'll be in games that are just shootouts where each team is scoring 50 points all season. Tua throwing for 466 yards is –
it's not going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, it might I'd like him to hit that 2,000, but I don't think he will. Cooper Kupp had a phenomenal year 2 years ago, and he didn't hit 2,000.
Okay, what about this? They played the Patriots twice this year, so that's already 400 yards.
Anyways, I'll move on. My top performer, and you know what? Olu is going to love this. Mine is Zay Flowers. I was actually not big on Zay Flowers coming into this season. I wasn't big basically because he took 4 years to come out of BC to get into the NFL. But let me tell you what, that man, he caught 9 of 10 targets. Now, here's what's so wild. Okay, someone might say he only had 78 yards, Matt. He had 2 carries for 9 yards. That's not too impressive. 10 targets out of Lamar's 22. The man had a 45% target share. 45% target share for his first game in the NFL. You know who he looked like? I believe he's like 5'9", 182. Antonio Brown played at 5'10", 185.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That's interesting. Okay.
And the guy was catching passes behind the line of scrimmage, at the line of scrimmage, down the field, making guys miss. I mean, they say he looks like a joystick, and the guy was balling. I was watching him play. I'm like, this guy can do it, man. And they're just giving him. They made him the wide receiver 1, not Odell Beckham, not Rashad Bateman. And I know Mark Andrews missed time, but let's not forget, Lamar Jackson made Hollywood Brown fantasy relevant. Zay Flowers is more talented than Hollywood Brown. So
yes, he is.
My top performer is going to be Zay Flowers, and I think he's going to be something special this year. Not to mention, his PFF was 78.2. That's pretty good for a first game for a rookie.
Where did you hear all this before the season started?
I heard it from Dr. Olu. That's who I heard it from. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about don't overreact. This is a helpful segment to you, our listeners. Please don't overreact. Shed, who are you warning the people not to overreact about?
Okay. Let's not overreact. Everybody was overreacting. Kansas City's lost in week 1. should we be worried about the Kansas City Chiefs offense?
Get him off your team.
No. See, I think the biggest issue was because it was a Thursday night. It was a first game. Everybody was watching. There was a lot of bad offenses in week 1, right? Kansas City was actually pretty good compared to a lot of these offenses. So, no, there's nothing wrong with Kansas City offense. The Chiefs have been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 years and have won 2 of them. Mahomes has won the last 6 of 7 openers and scored at least 33 points. So this game here was an anomaly. The offense will be fine. No Kelsey, no Chris Jones, and they still actually should have won the game. Think about it. If Kadarius Toney doesn't drop that pick 6, or he doesn't drop that 3rd and 20, if he catches one of those, KC probably wins the game, right? It was 21-20, I believe the score was. The Chiefs dropped 5 passes in week 1, 3 of which were on 3rd down. And you also realize that in the entire league, there were 5 players that had drops in week 1. 3 of those were Kansas City Chiefs.
Golly.
3 of the 5s were Kansas City Chiefs. So let's cool our brakes. Let's chill. Mahomes and Reed will pull together. We all just need to RELAX. Relax.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when Rodgers said that at the beginning of the season.
You just you can say that for this. Do not ever try that on your wife. Don't ever put RELAX. That does not go well.
Wait, did you try that, Will?
No.
For those of you listening, this is good marital advice Will is giving. Don't tell your wife to relax.
Mistakes in my marriage, but I did avoid the RELAX trap.
Here's a hot take. Mahomes will not be successful without Travis Kelce.
Oh my gosh. That's what you hope. That's what you want.
Yeah, yes, that's your hope, Olu.
Okay, just for the listener's sake.
Hey, but real quick, just a quick explanation before anything. I'm not saying because he's going to become bad. I'm saying because he's so good, he needs someone just as good to be in the mix. Because he's a great dancer. He needs someone that can dance with him. So if he doesn't have anyone that can dance as good as he can, then it's not going to work. There's no chemistry. So
that's a very interesting analogy. But what I want to do is I just want to fill our listeners into something they may not know. Olu is an avid Tom Brady fan.
That's another statement.
Understatement.
Mahomes is a threat to Tom Brady's legacy. And I don't want to say success because the man has already accomplished, more than anyone probably ever will. But Mahomes, being as talented as he is a threat to Tom Brady. So Olu does not want Mahomes to succeed. But anyways, let's keep going. Who is your don't overreact, Olu?
Okay, my don't overreact is Steeler offense. Okay, and Tomlin would believe. Okay, so yes, they were bad. It's the first week, and they played the 49ers defense. That's a tall task for any team at all.
Defense.
Much less a team that's just finding its groove. A team with a new offensive line. So I would say don't overreact. If anything, we can trust Mike Tomlin. He's never had a losing season, so we can trust them. Kenneth Pickett had a wonderful, wonderful offseason. So he's in his second year. So we expect a second-year jump. Okay, Judge Pickens is also coming into his own. The second coming of Pickens. What would be Judge Pickens. So I feel, and then the offensive line has been revamped, and they also have a tight end in Darren Waller, who's essentially a sixth offensive lineman. So I do feel we shouldn't overreact based on what happened on Sunday, as bad as it looked, because it did look bad.
I think Darnell Washington.
Not Darren Waller.
What did I say? Darren Washington? D. Washington. What about that? Let's go with D. Washington. Okay? So let's not overreact on this past Sunday. They really had a tall task that any other team probably won't survive. Okay? So they will bounce back. They will have a bounce back game, and they will have a good season.
I do have a rebuttal to that, but I will save that until the end. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think the Steelers, you're right. In Tomlin, we trust. The man has never had a losing season. Obviously, they're going to be out Deontay Johnson, but if there's anyone who would believe in that offense, it would be George Pickens' biggest fan. So, Olu, hey, we'll give you some credit for that.
Go Dogs.
That's right. And go Dogs. That's right. Will, who do you have? Don't overreact.
Okay, I'm taking a risk on this because I might regret this one a few weeks from now. I'm going to say do not overreact about the Falcons pass catchers, and I will hone in on Kyle Pitts and Drake London. They ran all over a bad Panthers team that the Falcons knew could not put up any significant points. They were able to run the ball, milk the clock. They did not need to add any other element to their offense. That's not going to be the case throughout the rest of the season because Atlanta will play teams that are going to put up points against them. They're going to be playing from behind. They will have to throw. We don't know who Ritter is. We don't know what level he's going to ascend to, but he will have to throw in these games. And when he does, it's only going to two players, Drake London and Kyle Pitts, especially when you get down into the red zone. Let's say you have a 3rd and goal from the 8. You're not running that. It's going to be an end zone or a red zone target, end zone target for one of those two. Don't overreact. Don't drop them. Don't trade them. Just hold on. Wait a few weeks. If I'm wrong, week 6, make some moves, but just wait a little bit.
Wow, that was pretty good, Will. I'm convinced.
I have faith.
3rd and 8 in the red zone. Don't underestimate what the Falcons are willing to do.
The Twins.
So my don't overreact. I'm going to go in a different direction. I know you guys all highlighted people who underperformed. I'm going to highlight somebody who overperformed here, and that is William Shakespeare's favorite receiver, Romeo. Wherefore art thou, Romeo? What you're doing, if you're new to fantasy football, you may look at guys like T. Higgins or Jamar Chase and see that they did not perform well. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to trade those guys for somebody who did perform well, like Romeo Doubs. Don't do that. Romeo Doubs, is he a good receiver? Yes. Will he score 2 touchdowns a game again? Probably not. Romeo Doubs, yes, he scored 2 touchdowns, 4 catches, 26 yards off of 5 targets. I think Jordan Love did play well, but I don't know if that level of production is going to be sustainable for the Packers, and definitely not sustainable for Romeo Doubs. I think not. 4 catches for 26 yards. The touchdowns are not a good metric for fantasy production, especially for some of these receivers. So let's just look at it as 4 catches for 26 yards off of 5 targets. Don't overreact to his production. Don't sell the farm for Romeo Doubs. Just stay put. Hold your cards right there.
Jordan Love had a perfect passer rating. He had a 158.3. That is not going to happen again. I'm saying that is how bad the Bears are. Okay.
Did he really have a perfect passer rating?
Wow. He had a perfect passer rating in that game. Bears fans do not have any expectations for this year. I'm so sorry. You'll be picking at the top of the draft again.
Dude. So the question I keep hearing about is Justin Fields the guy. Is Justin Fields the guy? I'm a Justin Fields fan. I'm sold on him. I think the organization,
sure.
Yeah, for fantasy, right? For fantasy, he's solid. You have to continue to give him opportunities because he's still young. He's going to produce. It just takes time. They have to surround him with a better offensive line.
You know, I'll be honest. I think Justin Fields fantasy footballers love him.
Yes.
Because he gets production. Like last season, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback. But he was on the worst team in the league. The Chicago Bears threw for the fewest yards in the NFL in the last 10 years. If they are at the bottom, I think Chicago's going to have to check out Caleb Williams. I mean, the Bears brought in DJ Moore, and the man got 2 catches. Like, what are they?
Yes. That's a bonus. Here's a bonus for our listeners. If you have DJ Moore, it may be time to panic. He has a quarterback who cannot throw.
Lord have mercy. Let's move on. We're going to move on. We're going to go to our waiver wire ads, okay? So these are guys you want to make sure you get your claim in, spend your fab bucks. They're probably available in your league. We're going to give you some insights and some tips to these guys. Shed, go for it.
Numero uno, there should be no surprise. I have this guy in my Dynasty League, and he broke out week 1, Puka Nakua. This guy had 10 receptions, on 15 targets, 119 yards, and this is without a touchdown. He still produced without even having a touchdown.
Elite
He is
numbers.
owned in 2.8% of ESPN leagues and 9% of Yahoo leagues. So make sure you go out there and you get him. Nakua led the NFL in targets this past week, tied with Tyreek Evans. Rams are number one in the league with 11 personnel. That's 3 wide receivers and a tight end. McVay will sling the rock. With uncertainty with Cooper Kupp, his hamstring, these hamstrings are really a nagging issue. Even McVay said that there could potentially be nerve damage. And if you've been watching, Cooper Kupp has been traveling around to see different physicians. So he's in California and he's gone around to different states looking at different physicians. This is shaping out to be maybe a much more serious injury than we think. Because you would think that California has plenty of good doctors. Why are you going around if it's nothing serious? So that's something to kind of keep your eye on.
Right?
And so with minimal to no Cooper Kupp, Puka is going to be wide receiver 1. He's going to get a lot of love. And even during camp, Cooper Kupp himself raved about Puka Nacua. He told reporters that, yeah, this man is pretty special. I think he can stay on a good trajectory. He's going to be a very good football player. He's good at the feel of the game, great for leverage and running route. He raved about him. He broke out in camp. This guy's a Rams future, and in McVay's offense, they're going to feed the ball to him.
I was big on Puka Nacua coming into the season. Grabbed him in one dynasty league, wanted to grab him in another one, had a 3rd-round pick, was going to get Puka Nacua, and I think Will gave me a 2nd-round pick next year for that 3rd-round pick where I was going to grab him. I tried to get cute thinking Nacua would make it to the 4th, and then Shed snagged him. So I'm a believer in Puka Nacua. Get him. Put in your claims for him if you can, if he's still available. Olu, who do you have?
Okay. Well, fun fact about Nico Pecor, he's the nephew of Dana White, the CEO of UFC.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So he shared that
Dana White was born. Go ahead. No, go for it.
Okay. So my waiver wire ads is no one. It's Demario Douglas. Demario Douglas is the slot receiver for the New England Patriots. He's an undrafted receiver from Liberty University. Okay. So the New England Patriots offense have actually found their groove in the middle of the field. Okay. So that means they target the slot receiver more and target the tight end. Demario Douglas had 7 targets yesterday, on Sunday. He had 7 targets. That's a lot for an undrafted receiver. And he's projected to be Edelman-like in that offense. And Bill O'Brien, who's the new offensive coordinator, he loves his slot receivers. So he's someone you should look for in the waiver wire and add him. Even if you put him in your bench, he's someone to absolutely look for. Okay,
So you would take him over Bourne?
That's a good question. No.
For our listeners on Spotify, that was 3 seconds of a contemplative face.
Bourne is you said what?
That was 3 seconds of you contemplating.
That's the thing about a Patriots offense. You never know who's going to have a great day because they spread the ball around. So that's what you want to look for because he's in the slot and they target the slot a lot.
Yeah, I'm not trying to touch any Pats receivers, but if you say this guy's Edelman-like,
yes,
maybe he could be helpful. Yeah, Will, why don't you tell us who is your waiver wire ad?
All right, please listen up on this one. This is the number 1 player you want to add going into week 2 if he's available in your leagues. Kenneth Gainwell, running back for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Ooh.
He rushed the ball 14 times for 54 yards in the win over the Patriots. Also added 4 receptions on 4 targets for 20 yards. He had 18 total touches while all other running backs combined on the Eagles had 4. So 18 for Gainwell, 4 for everyone else. DeAndre Swift was a non-factor. Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch. All offseason, we're thinking the Eagles added Penny, they added Swift. Those are going to be the guys. But when it came time to play on Sunday, they went back to Old Faithful Kenneth Gainwell, continuing the trend from the second half of last season. He's owned in only 21.5% of ESPN leagues, 46% of Yahoo leagues, you should still be able to add him at this juncture. Add him now because he will not be available after this week, and I predict he will be the RB1 for the Eagles moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, the reality is you want to get a running back on a team that's going to score points that has a great offensive line. Why not do it? If Miles Sanders was an incredible running back in that system last year, why wouldn't Kenneth Gainwell be? You know, my waiver wire ad, this is going to sound funny because I'm going to contradict what I just said just 10 minutes ago, but mine is give me some love for Jordan Love.
Okay.
He's only owned in 15.8% of ESPN leagues and 32% of Yahoo leagues. What's interesting to me is that Kyler Murray is owned in more ESPN leagues than Jordan Love. Kyler Murray may not even take a snap this year. As Will said, the man had a perfect passer rating. You know what's interesting? When the Packers drafted Aaron Rodgers back in 2005, I don't think Aaron Rodgers really even made a start for a year or two. Fast forward, and the Packers draft Jordan Love, and he doesn't make a start for about 2 or 3 years. But his first start on week 1 as a Packer, the guy throws for 3 touchdowns and 245 yards and no interceptions. Am I saying he's Aaron Rodgers?
Please don't.
I'm not saying.
Maybe.
I'm not. No. Give him some love, okay? What I am going to say is if he turns into what Aaron Rodgers was, you're going to want him on your roster right now. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about going forward here in week 2, matchups to exploit. Get these guys in your lineup. Don't think twice about it. Shed, help our listeners out.
Matchups to exploit. Don't think twice about these guys. The New England running backs, more specifically, Stevenson and Zeke versus Miami. In week 1, Miami allowed the Chargers 234 yards rushing on 40 attempts. That's 5.8 yards per carry, nearly 6 yards a pop. That defense gave up. One thing Belichick does well, we all know, is defense and run the ball. Belichick is going to run the ball in week 2 versus Miami. Belichick will also limit Tyreek's explosion. He's going to probably have a guy underneath a guy at the top. But also not only that, by double covering him, but he's also going to play keep away from the Dolphins. So back to our Tyreek point, I don't think Tyreek goes off in this game like he did in last game. And you guys also remember last year's December matchup, the Patriots versus the Bills, right, where Belichick only threw the ball 3 times. You guys remember that, right?
Oh, yeah. Ridiculous.
He ran the ball down Buffalo's throat. And in that game, the Pats ran for 222 yards on 46 carries. 222 yards on 46 carries. Those are very similar stats to what Miami gave up to the Chargers last week. Patriots offense will be run, play action with a heavy dose of Stevenson and Zeke. Don't be surprised to see both running backs get near to or hit the century mark. These are guys that you want to start next week.
Both guys? Getting to the century? You think both?
Don't be close to 90, 95.
Shed, I want a screenshot of you starting Ramondre and Zeke right there in your 2 RB spots, okay? Let's put the money where your mouth is.
Zeke, when was the last time he even rushed for 100? Like, ooh, if he gets there, that would be impressive. Shed, who is your matchup to exploit this week?
Olu.
Not Shed, Olu. I'm sorry, Olu.
Oh, okay. My matchup to exploit this week is Mike Evans versus the Bears defense. Okay, so for one, the Mike Evans is extremely motivated. He's in his contract here. He's in a contract dispute with the Buccaneers. So he's highly motivated. He's upset, matter of fact. So he's highly motivated. And now you have the Bears defense, who gave up 237 passing yards to the Green Bay Packers with lesser receivers than Mike Evans. And Mike Evans has also found a groove with Baker Mayfield. They're doing something special up in Tampa. So I think that's a matchup you would like to exploit. The one Mike Evans versus the Bears passing defense.
said Mike Evans found something special with Baker Mayfield, and they have a groove.
Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
But think about this. In college, right? You had Johnny Football and Mike Evans. They were quite special, right? So Baker Mayfield, Johnny Football, they play similarly. So yeah, they are doing something special up in the Tampa Bay.
All right, let's move forward. Will, who do you have?
All right, mine is going to be related to Olu's take, and I'll explain why in a second. You want to start A.J. Brown versus the Minnesota Vikings confidently. In fact, he's a player who could carry your squad this week. Why is that? The Vikings defense just made Baker Mayfield look elite in that game. Their secondary is not physical. If you saw that clip of Byron Murphy getting stiff-armed by Baker Mayfield on a rollout, it's embarrassing. A.J. Brown is a big, physical receiver. You want to start him. He will carry your squad this week. Exploit that matchup.
Yeah, do you guys have anything you want to say about that? Or what do you guys think?
I mean, AJ Brown versus most defenses is a match to exploit.
Yeah, Minnesota's D. Play everybody. Yeah, my matchup is one of everyone's favorite names to say. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. I know Shed talked about him last week as he thinks Amon-Ra can finish top 3 receiver of the year. Wow. I think Detroit made it very clear that he is going to be a focal point of their offense.
He's the guy.
The man had 9 targets, 71 yards. He got a touchdown. I think he is going to do some special things. And Seattle just got torched by the Rams. Yeah. Who saw that coming?
With no established receiver.
Right. Puka Nacua got 15 targets. Yeah, like what do you have? 11? What did you say, Shed? He had like 11 catches in the first week? Something like that?
10 for 15.
Yeah, and so I think if Puka Nacua could do that against Seattle, oh my goodness, the sun god is going to feast off of Seattle. I'm big on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, he's already in your lineup, but I think that's a matchup you want to exploit. Let's move on. Matchups to avoid. You don't want these guys in your lineup. If you don't have to put them in, don't put them in. Shed, who's your matchup to avoid?
So, contrary to what Olu said, please don't put in Kenny Pickett against the Cleveland defense. Please don't. I'm going to overreact in week 2, contrary to what Olu said, because the Steelers, they have no Deontay Johnson, keep in mind, right? And Cleveland defense, this defense, guys, is legit. Last week, they gave up just 142 total yards, 75 rushing, 65 passing, and this was against a $275 million man in Joe Burrow, Chase, Higgins, and Mixon, which is no easy feat. Just 142 yards. Last week, the defense had 10 QB hits, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and allowed only 3 points. When Cleveland defense, when they're playing man-covered, second-year cornerback Martin Emerson does an outstanding job of matching up against T. Higgins. Higgins had 8 targets, and I know Matt's very familiar with this because he had Higgins in his league. Higgins had 8 targets in the game, but didn't record 1 single reception.
That is unbelievable.
Emerson's and that defense shut him down. As for the pass rush, 4-time Pro Bowler Myles Garrett was nearly double-teamed every single play and still had 4 QB hits and a sack. While on the other side, Pickett and that offense struggled against the 49ers last week, losing 30-7 and being shut out the entire second half. Pickett threw 2 interceptions while the team only rushed for 41 total yards. I see the Browns defense going to Pittsburgh and handling business.
Olu.
What say you, Olu? What say you?
Shed has a way of just, stomping all over your hopes and dreams. You're the second one he's stomped all over this podcast.
I'm torn. I have two matches to avoid, and I'm trying to go with. Okay. Ooh. All right. let me go with the controversial one. Okay, avoid Dak Prescott. You might want to avoid Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Because they're
Give
playing
us a
against.
reason.
I will. I will. They play, and you might want to listen because I got the Giants one right. Okay, so Dak Prescott is going against an elite defense in the Jets. So the Jets versus Dallas is going to be a defense match. It's going to be a defensive matchup. Okay, so you guys saw, yesterday, Jordan Whitehead had 3 INT picks, and people think, "Oh, who's Jordan Whitehead?" Jordan Whitehead has been balling for a long time. This is not new to him. He was part of the Buccaneers championship team, and he's a thumper. So he's a safety who also plays linebacker. So he's someone to watch out for. So then you have Quincy Williams. You have Quincy Williams, also a linebacker. Quincy Williams on the front line. You also have Solomon Thomas, a first round pick from the 49ers. So this
49ers.
from the 49ers, yeah, a first round pick. This defense is made in the image of Salah, is made in the image of Salah. Like Salah first said when he first got hired, he said, all gas, no break. That's exactly how the defense plays. And I think that Prescott will have a hard time with this defense. And especially that Prescott loves to run around the pocket. They're extremely fast. So they will get to him. Dallas does have a good O line. They do have a good O line. However, I feel the might of this defense will be too much for the Dallas offense to overcome. So I will say, stay away from Dak Prescott.
Prescott is going to get lost in the sauce.
Cowboys fans are not going to like this one, but you might be right.
He could be. I hope he's right. I hope he's right.
That's not crazy, Olu. That's not. I mean, that's not crazy.
That doesn't mean you're going to lose. It will be the battle of the defenses.
I can see that.
Be an ugly game. Will, who's your matchup to avoid?
All right, I'm taking a risk on this one, and I might be accused of this being a homer pick. Here's the risk. You want to avoid starting Austin Eckler this week against the Tennessee Titans. Two reasons. You got to hear me out on this one, listeners. First of all, he injured his ankle in the Week 1 game. He might be a bit hobbled. They may spell him quite a bit with Joshua Kelly. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some Isaiah Spiller. In addition to that, the Titans, yes, that is my squad, have an elite running defense and a terrible passing defense. This is a game where Herbert could easily throw for 45, 50 attempts to those three great receivers that they have. I don't see them going to Eckler a lot because of the injury status, being hobbled potentially, and because the Titans do have that elite run defense. I don't think Eckler is going to get you what you would normally expect from him this week. If you have other running back options, this would be the week to take that risk.
But what if Herbert does throw for 45 attempts? How many of those targets are going to Eckler, though?
Because normally I'd say 8 to 10, but because of his ankle, it's just a risky start this week. You'll want to monitor it throughout the week, obviously, but I think Eckler is going to disappoint for people who start him in week 2.
Right. So you're not saying he's going to be a bust. You're just saying he's not going to give you what he typically gives you.
If he typically in a PPR league could get you 15 to 18, I think he's going to be more in the 8 to 10 range this week.
Ooh.
That is my confident prediction.
All right now, Will. Well, my guy is Alexander Madison. I'm saying stay away from Alexander Madison. I was personally not too big on him this season. I know a lot of people were wanting him on their rosters because they're thinking, oh, the Kevin O'Connell offense, the Vikings like to score. Dalvin Cook was awesome. Well, let me tell you something. Alexander Madison is not Dalvin Cook, okay? He is not Dalvin Cook. Not even close.
No.
The man rushed 11 times for 34 yards. That's 3.1 a carry. That's terrible. He did get targeted 4 times, had 3 catches for 10 yards. But the reality is Alexander Madison is not Dalvin Cook. Many people thought they were getting a steal in their draft when they drafted him in the middle of the draft, around round 6, 7, 8, and they thought, oh, this is great. I'm getting a starting running back. You're going to be disappointed. I think you were disappointed in week 1. you will be disappointed in week 2. Philly has a good defense, not just a pass rush, but a great defense. Why? Because about half of them boys went to the University of Georgia. I'll say that again. So I don't think Alexander Madison is playable this week. You will be disappointed if he is in your lineup.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Because the Patriots threw for 54. They 54 times. That was not their game plan. They had to switch the game plan because they couldn't run on the Eagles' defense, and
They couldn't
had
run on him.
Listen, so
yeah. So what we're going to do, our final segment, this is fun for us. Hopefully it's fun for you to listen. We're going to have our own single game mock draft. What we're going to do is we're going to take one game. We have chosen the Thursday night game, Minnesota at Philly, and we're going to do a 2-round mock draft. Quarterbacks are not eligible to be drafted. Obviously, no kickers, no defense, just the skill players. So we're looking at running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. This will be a PPR draft, 1 point per reception, 1 point for 10 yards passing, 10 yards receiving or rushing, 0 points for first down. So we're keeping it simple, but we're going to do a 2-round mock draft, snake style. So the only players eligible to be drafted are players from the Thursday night Minnesota at Philly game. The over-under is 49, so there should be a good amount of points scored. And we're going to kick off this draft. We're going to go in this order. It'll be Shed, Olu, Will, and then myself. Every week when we do this, we will change up the order, and we're going to keep a running tally of the scores to see at the end of the season who is the best of the 4 wide fantasy footballers. Okay, so Shed, who is your first pick in the Minnesota at Philly game? I think this should be an easy one.
Yes, this is the easy one. He was a first overall pick in this year's draft. Give me JJ, Justin Jefferson.
You didn't want to try to get sneaky with it or cute at all?
No. Give me what I know.
Easiest pick ever.
Easiest pick ever.
I mean, but you don't have to do it. He could drop to number 4.
No,
you remember, Matt, how in our Dynasty League, how you were trying to draft Puka. You got cute, traded away your 3rd pick, and you got snatched up, right? No, there is no cute business here.
Things happen. Olu, you're up. You're on the clock, Olu.
Give me AJ.
That's a good pick.
Is there a reason why you want AJ Brown specifically?
Yeah, there's a reason why. Because it's AJ Brown. Like you need more reason than that? No. It's AJ Brown.
All right, Will, who do you want and why?
I was hoping Brown was going to slip to me at 3, but I'm going to stick with that Eagles passing game. Give me Devontae Smith as the 3rd pick. I think the Eagles throw it all over the Vikings. I think Brown and Smith are going to put up big numbers.
So I think this pick is obvious to me. I'm going to go ahead and take Alexander No, I'm just kidding. I'm not taking Alexander Madison. But I am going to take Jordan Addison to finish out the first round. I'm going to go ahead and take Jordan Addison. I think he had a good week 1. He scored a touchdown. I think he can. Dang. No, I don't. Well, I'm going to take Jordan Addison because I think he's the best player. He's the best player on the board. And then I'm going to take the guy who I think is the next best player on the board, is another pass catcher in Minnesota. I'm going to take the Hawk, TJ Hawkinson, with the first pick of the 2nd round.
All right.
Will, who do you like?
Golly, I'm looking at this. I don't like any of these running backs because I love Gainwell as that waiver ad. You want to monitor the ribs injury. This is obviously Thursday night game, short turnaround. Oh, I don't love this, but I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert.
Ooh.
He's my next pick here. I think he'll be the next best player out of this game.
Oh, man. He let some people down this last week.
Yes, he did.
Yes,
he'll bounce back.
He had 0 points for me this past week.
Wait. Will, you were the one who hyped up Gainwell.
I did, but the ribs, the short turnaround, you want to add him. He's going to be great for this whole season. For this game, I think Goddard bounces back.
Okay. Olu. You're on the clock, brother.
Give me DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift because
whoa, Olu with the sneaky pick.
yeah.
Why Swift? Why Swift?
He had a bad game on Sunday, but he was playing a really dominant run defense. Okay, so now Minnesota have shown they're not a good run defense, and DeAndre Swift once it gets the ball and it's the open space, he's gone. That's a lot of yards, so I'm going with him.
Fair point.
To say he didn't have a good game is an understatement. The man didn't even have a game. Like he got three.
Because think about it, he's an open field guy, and if you have a stout defense, a stout up from in front, and you can't hit the open space, you're nullified. What's the point? So, but with Minnesota, they have nothing but lanes, so he can hit those lanes, hit the open road, and it's gone like the I-95.
If Gainwell has to miss, then Swift is a safe bet to take a lot of that work. No doubt about it.
Shed, you're up. Last pick of the draft, Mr. Irrelevant.
So I'm going to go with the upside here. And everyone's talking about Gainwell's injury. I'm hoping he kind of comes through. So I'm going to go with Gainwell because he probably should have been drafted 5th or 6th, right? But then because of the short turnaround, the potential injury, right? I think he drops to me at number 8. That could be a potentially game-changing pick for me, assuming that he plays. So I think that he's going to be better off than the other guy. So I'm going with the upside with Gainwell.
Injured Gainwell over healthy Madison, huh? Oh, how far he has fallen.
Alexander Madison. All right, so that rounds out our draft.
Can I change my pick? Because I can choose Kenny Gano.
No, you can't change your pick. No.
Absolutely not.
I want to choose Kenny Gano. I thought you loved
this. This is a made-up game with made-up rules, but one of those rules is you can't
change your pick. It is what it is.
It is written in stone.
Yeah, you missed the punchline. The punchline was, I want Kenny Gano.
Wait, who?
Kenny Gano.
Oh, you like
the kicker, right?
Oh, the kicker?
No
kickers. No
kickers. We said no quarterbacks, no kickers.
All right, no, never mind. You missed the punch.
All right. So that rounds out our draft. Shed has Justin Jefferson and Kenneth Gainwell. Olu has A.J. Brown and DeAndre Swift. Will has Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. And yours truly, Matt, have Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson. And so, again, we'll be doing a – what's that?
I won already before the game started.
This is why we love doing fantasy with Olu. But that wraps up our show for the day. We thank you so much for checking in. We will be back next week to talk about week 2 and to talk about our projections in week 3 and going forward. Thanks for stopping in. This is Matt, Shed, Olu, and Will. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Peace.
Peace.